Hey, greetings, Satnam, everyone. What's going on? Hope this video finds you doing well for our September Jyotish astrology forecast. We'll dive in just a second here, but before we do, I just wanted to mention some of you may have seen the emails earlier in the month of August that I launched a brand new online course. It's called The Foundations of Jyotish, and it's honestly incredible. I'm so pumped about it. I filmed another course that I'll be launching sometime probably in the new year that's an intermediate Jyotish course, and I just loved creating these two courses. It was a pleasure and really pushed me in my own study and communication of these teachings. So if you're interested at all, the foundations of Jyotish, I highly recommend if you're even going to bother watching these videos or having readings or exploring astrology and you're actually interested in it, do yourself the favor and get that course. It's only 47 bucks right now. It's about 7 hours of really quality content, and this stuff will just resonate more deeply. You'll really understand what the heck the meanings of these planets and these signs and these, houses actually have to do with anything. This stuff is complicated. It's a whole language, unto itself. And for me, there's really no better way to understand it than to check out that course. So do yourself a favor, give it a look. See, I promise you won't regret it. If you do, you can yell at me. I'm okay with that. But let's get into it for the month of September and see what we have going on. So, there was a lot going on the last like month and a half, particularly around the planets of Saturn and Mars. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that this month in September. Mars has moved out of Leo where it was and is now in Virgo. And so no longer are Saturn and Mars kind of battling with each other in the sky. There is a little bit of an interesting new relationship, which is between Saturn and the Sun. It's not quite as intense as the previous month, but both of these planets are very strong in their own signs. Saturn in Aquarius and the Sun in Leo, which they each rule. So, this is kind of a cool mythology. I'll just share it. So we think of the sun as really the, luminary of the sky, of the brightest light in the solar system, which it is. But what many people don't know is that the sun is actually the younger brother of Saturn. The story goes that the sun's father actually conceived Saturn first with another entity that was the shade or kind of the darkness. And so Saturn carries more of that weight, whereas the sun is that luminosity. So Saturn and the sun don't like each other. Saturn's sort of like the illegitimate child. And Saturn is technically in one respect, the elder of the sun, and he's the lord of karma, the lord of death, the lord of time, whereas the sun is the lord of illumination, prana, vitality, consciousness. So they don't like each other when they square off like this. So there is a little bit of animosity, but to me, again, it's not nearly as intense as what we were experiencing the previous month with Mars and Saturn being more difficult planets energetically. So that's just kind of a cool little Vedic fun fact. The other thing that's going on right now is that we've got some retrograde planets. So Mercury is retrograde to start the month. Venus is retrograde to start the month, and Saturn is retrograde. So three retrograde planets can be a little bit of unpredictability as it pertains to their energies. Again, though, overall, not as concerning for me personally, based on some other factors, but just something to note. But in a few days going into the month, Venus will no longer be retrograde, actually, as of the 4th. Venus will come out of retrograde, so that's kind of nice, just to soften things up a little bit. And then similarly, Jupiter will actually go retrograde on the 4th. So one retrograde planet will return to regular, and Jupiter, the new planet, will go retrograde. So, for me, what's kind of interesting in this month in particular is the constellation of Aries. I think Aries is sort of a sign where there's a lot of energy concentrated. Here's why. Jupiter's in there, 1. Rahu's in there, 2. Saturn is affecting it, 3. And Mars is also affecting it, 4. So these are 4 planets, all very strongly influencing the sign of Aries. And in particular, Mars is the ruler of Aries. So his influence carries particular weight. Aries is a sign of the 3rd chakra, the solar plexus. It's a sign of will, of ambition, of drive. It represents the head anatomically. You can say that someone is bull-headed. Aries is the bull. And the bull gets its way a lot of the time because of its brute force and kind of its power. Not the most intelligent beast in the animal kingdom, but very strong, very powerful. So to me, Aries is a sign right now that I think for this month of September is one to kind of pay attention to its energies in terms of manifesting desires, accomplishing goals, even physical vitality, kind of the force of one's body. Mars is in Virgo, which is an earth sign, a good sign that pertains again to details, to the mind, to information systems, things like that. So, it's interesting. Myself and quite a few people I know are doing some really big improvements to the systems, specifically of our businesses. And so I think it's a good window for something like that, for a number of different reasons. Because you have this expansiveness of Jupiter, which is really good, the wisdom of Jupiter, the alignment with Dharma of Jupiter, the prosperity of Jupiter, the idealistic, optimistic, positive-minded qualities of Jupiter. Then you've also got the more meticulous energies of Saturn, that kind of critical, keen, discerning, somewhat detached, even more cold, very factual, but very persevering as well. And then you mix in Mars to that, which sustains it with the fire. So you really have all the makings of life, which we consider to be creation, maintenance, and destruction. The things that need to be destroyed will be destroyed. The things that need to be created will be created, and the things that need to be sustained will be sustained. So again, I think there's a very positive window for that in this month of September.